Hello and welcome to the Galgo, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm Peter Lavelle. Well, it's this time of week again. Thumbs up, thumbs down. I know everyone's been waiting for it. We've actually delayed it a couple of hours just to make it even better for everyone. Of course, I'm joined by George Szamuely, co-founder of the Galgo here. I will go first. My first thumbs down. New York Times, but why? Because of their they had an article worrying about Clubhouse, this new platform where you were invited to. So it's kind of a VIP thing, where they were worried about unfettered coverage. People are actually talking without them being involved in the room to monitor. Okay, I mean, it's just astounding how much lack of awareness they have. Is that, democracy dies in darkness and stuff like this. I mean, free speech has died there. I mean, you can't have free speech if the New York Times doesn't have one of its moles in the room monitoring everyone. And we had a case of a journalist there trying to take a very prominent Silicon Valley tightened down because of an apparent comment that was never said and was misunderstood, and it wasn't from that guy. So, I mean, this is the kind of irresponsibility that you're getting from the New York Times, unfettered. I couldn't believe it. Go ahead, George.
Right, no, that's exactly right. And so, what exactly does the New York Times hope to gain by worming its way into these discussions? It's entirely in order to police them, in order to spot out, to sniff out somebody who might say something that isn't politically correct. Then they can then rush into Twitter or into the New York Times. Oh, see what this unfettered people do. They use politically incorrect language. They say naughty things. It's entirely a kind of a vacuous, destructive kind of endeavor. So what you think journalists would want to do, they want to join a discussion with presumably interesting people in order to learn something, in order to get ideas for stories. Instead, they're just acting as the worst kind of snitches, just listening in at the keyholes and then reporting what they have heard. It is the most disgusting activity imaginable, and just destructive, because it's destroying people's lives, careers, and reputations.
When the New York Times turned into the Stasi, okay, what's one of you're up?
Well, actually, I have start off with a thumbs up. The thumbs up is Australia. Australia got very tough with big tech. And they were on the brink of passing legislation forcing the big tech companies, Google and Facebook, to pay for the content that they publish. And Google, huffed and puffed and said, "No, we're not going to do it. We're going to stay out of Australia. We're going to have, be banned from Australia and so on." But eventually, Google caved and came to a variety of agreements with the publishers in Australia, chiefly Rupert Murdoch News Corp, and said, okay, we agree, we will pay for content. Facebook, however, has refused to pay for content, and so now Facebook's position is that we will not publish anything from Australians on Facebook.
So like medical alerts and dangerous storms, hospital alerts. Good on you, Facebook. Wow.
Facebook. And what is so disgusting? I mean, these big tech. I mean, they got so rich because they never paid for the content that they published. However, they still earned huge amounts of money from the content that they published, and they wanted this sweet little arrangement to continue while continuing to insist that they weren't really publishers, they were platform, even though they were obviously acting as publishers. So finally, Australia had enough, and Google has caved. But of course, other countries are now getting this idea. So Canada is thinking of this passing this legislation, and you can be sure the Europeans are going to pass this legislation. And anything that brings big tech down is a wonderful thing. So congratulations to Australia for having pushed ahead with this.
That's a genuine thumbs up. If there has ever been one on the gaggle here. All right, I will continue with my thumbs down. Always confused. Nikki Haley is back in the news, trying to thread the needle, but always confused. Nikki Haley didn't thread the needle, trying to placate Trump and his base at the same time, and I'm sorry, in the Republican establishment. Didn't work, Nikki. You're such a stupid person. I usually don't come out and say it so straightforward, but really. But there's a lot of people that are talking about her for 2024. She was disaster on the national stage, and she's just being pushed. She has backers, the same corporate goons that they want to have a nice, pretty face like Obama in the White House to sell their policies for their interests here. So Nikki. Try again, I guess, but I mean, you blew it. I think it was an op-ed that she came out with, which just came out flat. Okay.
Right. Well, that's an excellent thumbs down. In fact, I was going to come up with that as well.
Well, keep it into it. Go ahead.
But it's very interesting. I mean, Trump, for some reason, we don't know what the reason is, rescued her flailing political career when he appointed her the U.S. permanent representative at the UN, because she had not only not supported him in 2016, she had spoken out in a very nasty way about him throughout that campaign, but he gave her this job, this elevated her, made her a sort of a national figure. She was terrible as a permanent representative. I mean, she evidently saw her job as being Israel's flag. I mean, she didn't do anything else there. She just said, "I'm going to defend Israel to the hill." That's part of your job description. And now she kind of tried to be very cute. And notice also, she only did that job, I think, for about 18 months before cashing in. I mean, so another one of these politicians who just wants to cash in right away. So now she thinks, oh, well, now she's going to make her bid for the presidency. She gave this interview to Politico in which she completely, took up Trump. We should have distanced ourselves completely from Trump. Of course, that landed like a lead balloon within the Republican Party. So she went off and asked for an invitation to see Trump in Mar-a-Lago to try to mend fences with Trump. And Trump rightly said, I don't think so.
Well, I think that's February 28th. He's going to showing up at CPAC. I don't think Nikki is invited. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So
I have a thumbs up, but it's a weird way the way I'm presented here. What's happening, the awful story that's happening in Texas, okay, an energy-rich state, and basically a well-functioning state as well. But there should be a silver lining to this tragedy. 3 words: infrastructure, 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 okay? What is it going to take for these elites? They all have their own private generators and private this, private that. They've been able to put a buffer between themselves and the disastrous politics that they've backed for decades now. Infrastructure, infrastructure, infrastructure. Okay, if it's going to be green, I can debate it. Okay, I'm not going to die on that hill. Not at this point, at least here. But infrastructure, yes. Okay, start investing in the country.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. It is absolutely ridiculous that the number 1 economy in the world has more power outages than any other comparable industrial economy. Europeans don't have power outages on the regular basis that the United States has. I mean, this is a new one for Texas, but California, it's a regular feature of California life. I mean, every summer there are power outages. And it's just an extraordinary that Americans, an energy-rich country. I mean, this is a country that's swimming in energy, and yet it has power outages all the time. So again, Texas. I mean, what else is Texas famous for? Texas is famous for energy, and yet you get a one spell of cold weather, and right away everything comes to a halt. Yeah, I mean it's disgraceful. But you're right. the investment in infrastructure had not been made. I mean, it's pretty much the same infrastructure as that was built in the 1950s and 60s.
Yeah.
So I have a thumbs down for Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi simply cannot let go of January the 6th. I mean, for her, this is something that she wants to squeeze as much political partisanship as possible out of it. So we've already had an impeachment. Then she appointed a general honoré, to head an investigation into the security lapses.
He's a pretty woke guy.
He's a woke guy. Now, this general honoré has already said loony things about January the 6th. He claims that Capitol Hill police were collaborating with the mob on January the 6th. He has said that the Senator from Missouri, Josh Hawley, and Ted Cruz should be disbarred for the horrific crime of challenging the electoral certification. Yeah, before the investigation. So when you have somebody who is that extreme heading some kind of an investigation, then you know that this investigation will be quite worthless. And then she wants to also set up this 9/11 bipartisan commission. Now, even likening what happened on January the 6th and 9/11 is kind of an obscenity. I mean, after all, what happened? The vote counting was delayed for a few hours. That's all. No senator, no congressperson was hurt. Even came close to being hurt. We already talked about the injuries, which we still don't know anything about how exactly these injuries happened. Likening this to the 9/11 terrorist attacks, when something like 3,000 people were killed. I mean, it shows you how their mentality, that the idea that somebody puts his feet on her desk is the same as the Twin Towers coming crashing down and 3,000 people getting killed. The temerity putting her feet up on my desk.
Well, the president has been said. Now they can impeach Trump again. Okay?
They can do it again. Yeah. So she's milking it, and she intends to go on milking January the 6th. A truly terrible political problem.
Well, Alex Jones and Roger Stone could be facing some legal jeopardy because there are people making claims that they were behind the riot. I'm not going to, that's what it was, a riot, okay, in the Capitol. So it looks like they're going to go after, again, people that were in Trump's orbit, okay?
A riot, and I think also came about because of a lack of policing. And then again, that goes into the question of her responsibility for the fact that there was inadequate police presence on January 6th. If there had been a proper police presence, none of what happened would have happened, and it could have been quite easy.
20 more cops.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. I have a thumbs down for Joe Biden. I don't know if we're going to ever have a thumbs up for the guy, but I just found it really quite humorous in a black humor way, is that he was in addressing the Munich crowd at the security conference, talking about the virtues of democracy and our values. Well, Joe, everything you've done in office to this point has been very autocratic. I'd like to point out that to you, okay? I thought you were going to be reaching across the aisle and all these guys. No. It's that pen isn't going to. It could run out of ink the way you're citing those executive orders. Okay, I just thought that, again, just the optics of it, talking about values all the time, but never practicing them.
Yes, that's a very good point. I think his speech was terrible. I mean, it was full of cliches, and again, a failure to identify what are the real security concerns for the European powers, for the United States, and bringing up Russia and all this hysterical bluster about Russia, it is absurd. I mean, other than these sort of NATO elites plus the Democrats in the United States, nobody thinks that Russia poses any kind of a security threat. How? Where? When? I mean, all these things. They're trying to undermine our democracy. They're trying to, destroy our reputation in the world. Well, the United States is doing a pretty good job itself of destroying its reputation.
I mean, it wasn't like Lavrov invited Joseph Borrell. Okay,
Right.
Borrell showed up. Okay.
Right. So, and I was going to add to a thumbs down Boris Johnson's speech, which was in some ways sort of comparable in its abysmal quality to Biden's. Again, nothing there about what's the British national interest. What exactly is in Britain's national interest? How exactly are you going to rebuild the British economy? Instead, he was saying, well, we have increased our defense spending over the past year. Well, you're in the middle of a bloody economic downturn. You've got, this awful lockdown, and you've managed to find more money for the military. I mean, so why? Against whom?
I don't want to put a thumbs up or a thumbs down on this one, but I was reflecting before we did our recording of Crosstalk, is that in a way, Joe Biden has kept his promises. Nothing will fundamentally change. Interesting.
Right. Yes. That's good. I had another thumbs down. That was the European Court of Human Rights. The other day, it ordered Russia to immediately, unconditionally release Alexei Navalny. It failed to provide any reason to do so. Navalny had filed a suit against Russia under the European Convention on Human Rights, and then the European Court of Human Rights then said that, well, is Navalny's security under threat in the Russian prison? Russia responded, so no, we've done all this and this to ensure that he's not in any serious danger. So the European Court of Human Rights just turned around and said, no, he needs to be released right away. On what basis? Well, what's the legal justification? You like Navalny and you don't like Russia, but provided no reason for it. So here is a court that is supposed to be concerned, with human rights, these sort of somewhat esoteric issue. Yeah, but then you say, well, there is a law. Just because you like Navalny, you can't just simply say, hey, just release him. No, I mean, there's a legal process that's underway in Russia. He has been found guilty. He can appeal and so on. But you can't just simply say, well, release him immediately. And so I say, the European Court of Human Rights just simply, discredited itself by making this absurd demand.
I wish they'd focus more on someone like Julian Assange.
That would be nice. That definitely would be nice. But that's an interesting thing. The European Court of Human Rights is very careful not to antagonize powerful players. Russia is just is just an easy football. Always lash out at Russia.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Well, those are all the thumbs up, thumbs down I have. Any more from you?
Yeah, I don't have too much more. I mean, I think we've.
Well, those were the highlights. Okay. Well, there's a lot coming up. Again, I'm being humored by how the mainstream media is trying to enthuse everyone about this new administration, and it's not working. And you know what is working? Trump is still working. They still can't help themselves, George. They can't help themselves. The Roger Stone going after him again. I mean, Alex Jones going after him again. It shows where they know where the clicks come from, and it's not from old Joe.
Right. No, I think it is very interesting that the CPAC conference is invited Trump to speak. This attempt to take down Trump has been a complete fiasco. And Mitch McConnell completely misjudged the mood of the party. And then you think the guy's supposed to be, he's now the minority leader in the Senate. So I guess he's the sort of the senior most Republican in the country. And he can't even understand the mood of his own party. Then what use are you? I mean, how can you be kind of a leader when you have no idea even how your own party is feeling.
And what they've done is that for better or worse, they keep pumping up Trump. I mean, and this is something that, they haven't learned after 5 years. The more you demonize him, the more his base will stand by him. I mean, it's very simple stuff here, and they just don't get it. Well, I think that's all we've got for this edition of Thumbs Up, Thumbs Down. If you like this, please like, share, and subscribe. And I have to remind everyone, we're not only on YouTube, but we're on Rumble as well. Okay, so please check us out there. Thank you, George. We'll do this again next week. Okay, everyone keep watching The Gaggle. Bye.